Okay, so that looks pretty good. Um, got a nice depth to the floor and the wall now with our normal maps added. And I think normal for the bump is too high though. It's kind of overpowering. I'm going to change it down to um, 0.45 instead. And alright, before I do another render, I'm just going to go ahead and get right into the particles on the ground. So, go onto a separate layer. Actually, just go into layer 1, turn the lights off, and I'm going to go back into solid shaded mode. Shift A, mesh, plane. And the idea behind this is we're going to use this particle system to drop particles onto the ground and then render them as little pieces of geometry. SY to make it a little narrower. SX until it's approximately as wide as our ground. Now hit tab to go into edit mode. Control R, make a loop cut right in the middle and pull this up a little bit. And I'm also going to select these two and hit extrude and pull it directly toward the center, just like that. Now, I'm going to go back into object mode, select our particle options right here, and now we see you have a new particle system. Leave it at emitter, and I'm going to turn the amount to 2000. The start emission to 1 and the end to 2, so that all the particles, all these 2000 particles, start coming out at frame 1 and then stop coming out at frame 2. So basically they just come out all into one burst and land on the ground and stay there. And of course we want to change the lifetime to 250, which is the full lifetime of our scene currently. And okay, that's good. Click random. Velocity. Okay, this is how fast the particles are going to shoot out. We don't want it to be too fast because then they'll end up completely out in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to change the random velocity, velocity up to 1, which will make some particles come out different speeds as others. And the angular velocity to none. And okay, go down to display, leave it at rendered. And let's see, where is it? We're going to render it as an object, a group in a second here. I'll show you how to do that. And leave it at material 1. We don't want to render the emitter because that's this big bar thing. We don't want that in our render, obviously. Click parents, so all the parent particles are rendered because those are the only particles that are going to be shown. Now go ahead and click this floor, go into the physics panel all the way to the right, and just click collision. Put the particle damping up. Actually, I'm going to show you what it does without it first. Now we hit Alt A and play. You can see the particles just kind of bouncing all over the place, boing, boing, up and down. That's because our particle damping for the ground isn't high enough. Now I notice if we put it up, they all fall on the ground, sit there, which is what we want. And they also slide all off of it, which is because you don't have enough particle friction. So let's turn that up a little bit, and we hit Alt A. Now you can see the particles fall down and they sit there. Of course, now we need to do the same thing to the wall. Collision, particle damping, turn that up pretty high. Actually, yeah, it's good. Random a little bit and turn the collision, the friction up. So if we play it, we notice the particles fall out and they land on the ground. Okay, that's all nice, fine and dandy, but they're not going very far. So what we need to do is click on our emitter and change the normal right here under emitter geometry to say something about 3. And now you see they shot out a little bit further, but we're kind of getting, these rows, as you can see. That's another thing I gotta do. Well, first of all, we'll just fix this, but as you notice when they come out, they kind of have like these 3 rows, and that's just because our random, velocity probably isn't high enough. That's a little bit better. Change it to 3, and also change our velocity up some more. So 5. And you can see, wow, still doing it quite a bit. I think what I'm going to do now is go into edit mode. Make this a little bit steeper. And press S Shift Y. Nope. S Shift X to make it a little smaller. check my normals here. Yep. Pull this over a little bit more. Now I think they're shooting out a little bit too fast. Back down to 3. Okay, so that's all right for now. And what I need to do is fix the camera because I don't like its placement. Go into your camera panel after selecting the camera object mode. And the focal length right now is at 35 millimeters, which is the default in Blender. And I'm going to change it down to 28, which gives us a little bit more of a wide angle lens. So I press 0, now you can see the camera sort of like zoomed out a little bit. So I'm going to press G, Y, and drag it so that it moves back into where we want. And what this will do, I'm going to move this placement a little bit. While putting a lower, a shorter focal length will basically make it into a wider angle camera, and it gives us a little bit of distortion, which adds a little bit of realism to the scene when used properly. If you overdo it, obviously it's not going to look right. But in this case, we want it to be a little bit closer to the wall and have a little bit of distortion. Okay, so we go into camera view. We can see the particles are pretty evenly all across the ground, and that's just what we want. So now we need to render these particles as something that looks like dirt. So go into, say, the second layer, press Shift A, mesh, and just simply add a cube. Hit tab to go into edit mode, press GZ1, enter, so that the cube is now sitting on top of the floor plane, but its origin is still level with the floor plane. So the origin is that little dot right there. And that's important because this is where the particle will sit on the ground. Now this is where the object that is rendered will sit on the ground, wherever the particles are. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I'll show you in a minute. So I'm just going to make something that looks like a piece of dirt or a rock or something. Yeah, Shift Z, make it a little bit smaller. Okay, Control R, you cut there, Control R, other way. A lot of weird stuff going on here. No, it's alright, okay. So I'm going to go top view, press Z to go into wireframe mode, and just pull these corners in a little bit. Make sort of a more random shape. Now I'm also going to pull in the top ones, so I have more like it's like a flat rock here. I don't know, you can do whatever you want with these. It's not important really. They're going to be so small that you just want something that if somebody zooms in or something, it won't look like, you know, just a cube. It'll look like some sort of organic thing. Go back into object mode, press Shift D, just duplicate it, go back into edit mode again, and just make it look different, I guess. I don't really know what to do to make it look different, but I don't know, dent in the middle, pull this back edge up, pull this down. Okay, that looks good. Object mode again, duplicate it in object mode, tab to go into edit mode, continue to randomize this, pull these in, say, I don't know. Whoops, that's the bottom one. Pull these down, I don't know. Okay, so once you have, let's say, 3s, I guess is enough for now, or is enough period to have. I'm actually gonna Shift Z, makes one a little smaller overall. Then select, actually let's see. I'm just gonna render these as smooth object, so just hit smooth and shading. Okay, so now select everything by pressing A, and press Control G, and it adds them to a group. So go over to your object panel here, object data, and notice there's a group here called group, and we're just going to call this dirt. And go back to layer 1. Actually, first before I do that, let's give it some better material. All I'm going to do is, because it's really small, turn the intensity of the specular all the way down, and I'm going to call this dirt. And I'm going to just give this a brown color, something like that. Okay, dirt, dirt, and that looks pretty good for now. Go back into the first layer, click on our bar particle emitter here, go back into the particle settings, and down here where we previously put a renderers group, where is it? Here it is. Click here, and now you notice we have dirt as a group. And also use pick random, so it picks random from the group that created. And you can use, no, you don't need to worry about that. Okay, just pick random, and that's good. So I'm going to put the random size up to 1, I think. Well, anyway, we press Alt A now. You notice all these dirt particles coming out and landing on the ground. And we just hit escape, and then drag it to somewhere where it's the cache is already baked. And you notice we have all these dirt particles on the ground. So I'm going to camera view. What that looks like is, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to turn the size up to 0.052, just a little better. Okay, so now it's time for our final render to see what this all looks like. Okay, well, I forgot to turn my lights on, so it's really super dark. So I just hit escape to pause the render. Make sure to shift click on layer 5, and now our lights should be on as well. F12, and let's try this again. Okay, so here's the final render. As you can see on the ground, now we have our dirt particles. And what helps this to make this look so realistic instead of just adding texture to the ground is that all these little particles are actually casting shadows as well, so it does help to bring a little more realism to your scene. So right now everything's looking good, and that's all for this part. And in the next video, which will be the last part of this series, I'll get into compositing, just a little bit of compositing to do some color correction and add a little extra juice to this image. So see you guys next time, and I hope you learned something from this section of the tutorial.